The engine is starting up.
For launch, GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps. The cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Riff Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Riff Nation Network and Mysteries Beyond the Scenes. I am your host, Joni Skinner, for another edition of Forensic Astrology Mystery Beyond the Scenes Wednesday evening. We are streaming live on the Riff Nation Network on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Spotify, Apple. Oh, and Facebook. Hello, Facebook world. Hello, Rumble world. I hope y'all are, and YouTube world, please like and share. Thank you, Keith, for sharing out. I hope y'all are having a great Wednesday evening. Another true crime episode where I use forensic astrology and mapping to solve crimes and mysteries. Actually, today I watched a chart with someone that did the 3 Atlas space junk. Somebody actually did, an astrologer actually did a chart on when Atlas 3 or 3 Atlas, because it's the third space junk or whatever's out there that they don't know what it is. And it's Atlas. This is the third one that we know of. And 3 Atlas was born or discovered. This is pretty interesting, you guys. On a Pisces eclipse. think it was like at 16 Pisces or whatever. So Atlas 3, which I call space junk, is now on the dark side of the sun. But he did the chart. And what's funny is when Atlas changed colors, which they can do that. Asteroids can change colors. But on the day that he changed it was in July, and the midheaven was at 16 degrees of Pisces, the same degree he was discovered on. So I don't know about Space Junk Atlas 3. We're going to have to see what happens. Now, apparently, if Atlas turns colors and goes in a different direction, who knows? Uranus went into Gemini. I said we're going to either see the Blue Beam Project come to light, that the CIA's hidden from us for decades, where they act like UFOs have landed, or it's real. We're going to find out. Like, he's on the dark side of the sun, and he's going to be headed, I think, next toward Jupiter, maybe. I don't know. He changed colors, but we'll have to see. I think it's kind of funny that people are kind of freaking out about him. Every scientist, and I listen to Stefan, who is a physicist, and he's like, the odds of this being a alien ship is pretty slim to none, but we'll see. They're all saying it's like the other atlases 1 and 2. 1 was weird. 1 acted like this. 2 didn't get much press, and 3 is acting weird. So we'll see. But he was actually discovered on an eclipse. I thought that was pretty cool. Pisces eclipse, Pisces North Node eclipse. That's pretty cool. So, everybody, I hope y'all are having a good evening. We'll check in with the chat. I've got a really cool show. To activate chat, please activate your channels here. Okay. So I'm having some issues here. I'm going to try this. I'm going to add the channels. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's see what happens. Because I can read all your chats. Hello, Miss Lois. Hello, Miss Linda, Miss Lee. Thank you, Sir Keith. And happy Wednesday to you, Miss Denise. How do y'all like the look at the Halloween writing? Isn't that cute? Hi, Heidi from Boulder. Thank you for sharing out as well. Miss Cindy, how are you? My only astrology book you'll ever need came today. Perfect. Hello, Lee. I hope y'all are doing well. It's rainy and cold and a little creepy. It's a little Halloween-y here right now. It's like, let's see, what is it? 46 degrees, and it's raining and it's cold and it's creepy out. Very creepy. Hello, Miss Lisa. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to you. This show is, what I did is, because you all know that I have talked about Kirsty's book nonstop since it came out. Here's Kirsty's book, the Forensic Astrology Workbook, with new insight on forensic astrology and chart information. So what I did is I went back and I pulled a similar chart to the chart on today's recent case. The topic tonight is, how do we know we have a perp, or if this is an accident? How do we know that this just wasn't an accident? How do we know that? We don't. We have to rely on what the chart tells us. So the recent chart was for Zacharias Stallings, who last Saturday went out for a jog. He is Asperger's, very highly intelligent. Went out for a jog, and they couldn't find him. He didn't return home. and he was found subsequently. He was found in the woods via the drones that the police used to search for him. Was this a perp or was this accidental? Law enforcement is saying they don't suspect foul play, but we don't know. We don't know, and they, sometimes they keep things tight to the vest if they're investigating. And Mike in Tennessee is a cold case that I covered a couple of years ago, actually. A couple of years ago. And Mike's disappearance is he lives up in the Smoky Mountains. And the situation with Mike's disappearance in 2008 is it's very similar to Howie did a show on this once. I'm sure he's done it a couple of times. However, it's where people just literally out of thin air, they disappear. They literally are gone, especially around wooded areas. They can't find any trace of them. There are no footprints. There are nothing. They can find nothing of them. And that's Mike's case. So I went back and I dissected it. And I mean, I have been dissecting this case just to try to get anything I could get extra out of the chart on Mike's case. So it's just, these two cases are, do we have a perp or do we not? And you all know that you are innocent here, as probably everywhere else around the world. You're innocent until proven guilty, even if you have been arrested, until a jury of your peers convicts you. You are afforded a fair trial. So it's hard to decipher when you don't have a perp, like we knew we did with a lot of our cases, mostly 99% of them. Then we've got the other 1%. And if you notice, even on the cases that I do know there's a perp or they have a person of interest, I will put over on the 7th house, which is always the perp. Perp if one, if there is one. Perp if one. Because we don't know. Yes, we can look for unaliving. That is Uranus in the 8th house, Pluto in the 12th house. That's when somebody does self-harm. That's a clue. So we know that can show up in charts. It showed up in Jeffrey Epstein's chart, that he unalived himself. It showed up. I've seen it in a couple of unaliving charts. I think I've seen it about 3 times. I think I've seen it about 3 times in known unalivings. So with that being said, it's pretty interesting because it's like you never want to, families, especially Mike's family, they still want to know what happened. This is 2008. They want closure. Of course they want closure. It would be horrific. So you just have to look up what the books and what we know through doing thousands of charts and try to make sense out of it. Mike's chart is very, very hard. Zacharias, we don't know if there's a perp. So let's see. Let's go back and take a look at both of these cases and what y'all think. Now, Rue and I talked about Mike's case a lot. Rue and I have worked on Mike's case together a lot. And she said, get out your cards. The little Reckoning Company, Whispers of the Unsolved, the true crime. They're kind of like a tarot deck, true crime tarot deck. So I thought, okay, after we go over Mike's case, I'll throw a couple questions out there. That's all, just an energy reading, and it's just my opinion. It's just the card's opinion, but what the heck? We'll see. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially on Mike's case. Zacharias's case, we need to wait and get more information, but we'll go over what we know because it's a very interesting case. So let's get started, you guys. Welcome. Come on in. Let's go. So first of all, we have little Zacharias in... Oh, I forgot. Let's go back. We're going to go back. My bad. Recap. This is the Paris mapping. If you all recall, 2 of the alleged thieves have been captured. One was on his way to Algeria, which, remember, the chart said could be foreigner, 9th house, at De Gaulle Airport. De Gaulle Airport is, see those 2 lines up at the north? There's 2 lines going northeast. Northeast. Those 2 lines take you to De Gaulle Airport. The other one was found in a subdivision, and that subdivision is located, if you look at the 2 lines to the right, the pink lines, those are the 2 lines that take you to that subdivision that the other thief robber was found. So I'm still kind of waiting for the other 2, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 to be caught. And I'll keep an eye on that. But I thought that was interesting. So 2 of them have been captured already. Okay. So here is Zacharias Stallings, 19 years old. He was last seen in what's called the Parklands subdivision on October 18th at 7 p.m. The Parkland subdivision is in Shirts. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, Shirts, Texas. It's a beautiful subdivision. And he ran. He went out for a jog at 7 p.m. Again, he has Asperger's on the intelligent scale, highly intelligent scale. His mom and dad were getting ready to go out for the evening. They went out for the evening, came home. His bedroom door was shut. They thought, oh, he's sleeping. What parents wouldn't? They went in to wake him up the following morning, and he was not there, which is way out of his habits. And people, with Asperger's, or even kids with on the spectrum, have their routines. This was not what he did. So they called the police. And of course, they said he's missing. So they searched the area like what all parents do, what all neighbors do. And a witness came forward and said, I saw him in the area with an older gentleman with white hair. Well, could that have been a neighbor? Could that have been a friend? Law enforcement's being very quiet about that. So, fast forward, searching, and there's a picture of Zacharias. They put his missing persons, posters out everywhere. If you can see on the map, it says where Zacharias was last seen in the subdivision. And if you go up to the left-hand side, that's where the body was found, approximately a mile, almost 2 miles away in the subdivision. It's not where he would normally run. He was in a wooded area. Again, the police do not suspect foul play. They do not suspect foul play. How did they find him? They found him using drones. As you all know right now, law enforcement, they use drones like crazy now for search and recovery, which is wonderful tools. But they found him using a drone in this area, kind of like in a trail off into the woods. He was found. And it's kind of like there's the main highway, just found it in the woods, wooded area. That's it. We don't know what the manner of unaliving was. We don't know anything. I checked again today for any news updates. Nothing. Zero. So they're not talking. This was a young man. What happened? What's going on? Again, here are some more photos of the search and recovery. As you can see, it was a huge. Oh, I didn't mark up this chart. I can't believe I'm a slacker on this chart. Oh, crap. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, here's the chart. Here's a marked up version. Tammy says Shirts is 25 minutes from me. Yeah, it's a beautiful area. It's down around San Antonio. So I'll read to you more of this chart because, of course, we don't need a map because he was found. Okay. So, gosh, I thought I marked on this chart. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, you guys. Okay, so we'll walk through this. And first thing about this is we've got an Aries in the first house. What planet rules Aries? Mars. So we look for Mars. Mars is up in the 8th house. Crap. We don't like victims or missing persons to show up in the 8th house because the 8th house is usually the house that is an unalive house. Okay, that gives us one marker. So we've got Mars up there, Aries. Okay, so we've got 8th house. Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. That house is the 8th house. That's the planet. That's the zodiac sign that's ruling over that particular house in this event chart, in this forensic chart. So we've got the victim and the ruler in the 8th house. Then we look for the moon. Remember, we have the co-ruler of the moon. Look at that. The moon is in the 6th house, right at, when we see it at the angle of the 7th house, if there is a perp. Now, in this instance, they're saying it doesn't look like there was foul play. If there was a perp, the perp would be Libra, which is represented by Venus. Venus is in the 7th house. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the first house, the house of Aries. We've got Neptune, which is the first planet that we see right there by the red line. And we've got a red line that's sending Neptune over to the moon. Okay, so here we go with clue number 1. Neptune is always in this placement in the first house. Remember, this is your physical body. This is the victim. This is the physical body. Aries rules the head. The head. Neptune can be disoriented, confusion, delusion. Now, we don't know if he took drugs. We don't know that. Were drugs involved? We don't know. More like confusion. So right now we've got some signs that are saying, wait a minute. He's confused. Something happened. Did he have a head? Did he fall and hit his head? Did something happen? We don't know. So we're going to take a look at the moon. Okay, the moon, the co-ruler in the 6th house. What does the 6th house rule? The 6th house is your work. It is your routine. What do you do day to day? Routines, daily patterns. It's your work, health. So this was his set routine. So this was his routine. So did he jog every day? I don't know, but I imagine if mom would tell us, yes, it was in his routine, his set routine, that he would go jogging at 7 p.m. every day. So right now we've got a daily routine is disrupted because it's opposing Neptune, causing disorientation. That's a huge clue right off the bat to me. Okay, so we know he was disoriented. It disrupted his routine. Something disrupted the routine. Okay. So I'm kind of leaning toward, I'm not sure if there's a perp or not. We'll act like there's a perp. We don't know. So let's take a look at if there was a perp. If, and that's a big if, because I don't think there was, but we're going to see. It would be Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. Where is Venus? She's in the 7th house. Okay. The sun is also in the 7th house of a perp. If there is a perp, what does the sun in the 7th house describe? It describes somebody that the victim would know. Arrogant, knows of him, visible to him, older man. We've always said that. Okay. It can also point to a public figure. Now, we did have a witness say that he was walking with an older man. So even if he was seen with an older man, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a perp. He could have seen a neighbor. He could have been walking with a neighbor for a time being. That could show up in the chart as a witness. Just because somebody shows up in a chart doesn't automatically make them a perp. They could be a witness. So that could very well, older man, be who he saw. Okay. The 4th house, because we always look at the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th houses first. Those are what we call angular houses. Remember, the 1st is the victim. The 4th is the IC, or the end of the matter. 7th house is the perp. The 10th house is what is out in the open, what the public sees, what law enforcement is doing. Those are our strong houses that we look at first. So in the 4th house, look at that. We've got Jupiter, which is really, Jupiter is, in a crime chart, what does that mean in the 4th house? It's really family dynamics in that house. Parental influence, which we know was there. Remember, parents were going out. He didn't come home. It's not a negative. It's just, it's a parental influence. Okay. So let's see. 10th house. There's nobody in there. We'll come back to that. Okay. So let's make our way around the chart. The 3rd house. We've got bad boy Uranus in the 3rd house. 3rd house is the house of communications. Now, let's say there is a perp. There's a perp. It could be strange text messages. It could be online activity to look for. It could be unexpected route taken. Unexpected route taken. Okay? So we know he was disoriented now from the chart. We know it was his routine. And now the chart is telling us with Uranus in there, it was an unexpected route was taken. Well, they've already said that wasn't the route that he would normally jog on. Did he get confused? And, anything could have happened. Did he get confused and run off into the woods? We don't know. We're going to have to wait for the autopsy. But the chart with the 3rd house is always what the person was doing. Were they in a car? Were they within the neighborhood? The 3rd house is within the neighborhood. It's communications. It's short distances. So right now we know that he took an unexpected route. That's the 3rd house with him. Yeah, that's Uranus. It's unexpected, things that are unexpected. If we look to see what Uranus is aspected with, it's with Pluto. Pluto in a crime chart is a malefic. It's nothing that we like to have good show up. And that's going into the 11th house, which that's another question too. Was that someone, if there was a perp, was that someone he knew that took him to a different route? We don't know. Again, too many unanswered questions. Also in the 8th house, we've got Mars. He was also indicated by Mars, but we also read Mars for what it is. It's something that happens very quickly in a crime chart. So whatever happened to him, whether it be he went off into the wrong area, he got disoriented, something happened to him, it was very, very quick and fast. Okay? Now, again, too many. I've got more questions after looking at this chart than I did before I had them. So let's look to the 11th house. Pluto is up there. Someone, now let's say if it was a perp, if there's a perp, which I don't think there is in this case, it was someone the victim knew that caused the harm. Someone the victim knew. Could have been manipulated on social media. The perp may have monitored the victim online. He was very obsessed with his presence because it's communicating with Uranus involved in the 3rd house. Okay, so then we go to see Saturn. Saturn indicates secrets. Now, this is what's so surprising that Saturn ended up right there. When you see Saturn in the 12th house, that normally tells us they're not going to be found. It's going to be a while. They're well hidden. The 12th house indicates that someone was hidden. Well, we know better because he was found. So that's kind of a glitch in the old chart interpretation. But we don't know. So that's Zacharias's chart. Like I said, we're going to have to wait until we get an autopsy. Let's find out if there was something that occurred to his head. They are not releasing anything at all. We just don't know. But that's kind of how you pick apart a chart when you don't know if there is a perp or not. Would I say there's a perp in this chart? No. Because Neptune is right there, showing disorientation. It's attached to the moon, a break in his normal routine, which is what he was doing. Uranus down in the 3rd house where he was jogging. That's what he was up to, communicating, jogging, running in the neighborhood. He was taken off of his not normal path. What caused him to go off of his path is the question. So, and Lisa says Asperger's can cause disorientation. There we go. There we go. New neighbor, Lee says. I don't know, Lee. They have not said anything. Pull along trailer. No, actually, I don't know if there was any vehicles because of the fact he was not that far from his home. If we look at, okay, where he was last seen jogging and where he was found is about 1.5 miles. So in jogging sense, it's not that far. And Lee says someone in a pull trailer. We'll have to keep that in mind, Lee. And if any more information comes out on this case, we'll have to take a look at it. So that's Zacharias's case. We'll keep an eye out on it. I think the chart was very telling on that case. We're going to have to wait and see what the outcome was on that particular case. Because they're clammed up. They're not saying anything. So I think they are probably waiting for the autopsy as well. That's what they usually do. I would not be surprised if there was some kind of something to the head because with Aries, it's head. its head, and we had Neptune. So we'll see. And that's one, I'll tell you, one for the books. Now, this is the cold case that I looked at again. That when I first did this actual case, I felt, here I go, I felt there was a perp. I just assumed it. I'm not sure now. Now I'm not sure. So this is one of those cases that you just want to bash your head up against the wall because there's absolutely nothing. There's nothing to go on, which is very odd. I think Rue and I, hi Rue and I have talked about this case actually for years, Rue, haven't we? This is Mike Herron. Handsome Mike Herron on August of 2008, August 21st, 2008. And you guys, you can read this too, and I'll go pretty quickly on this one. Around 11 a.m. And now Mike had 2 adult children. He was divorced, but was on good terms with his ex-wife. He lived in a Bell Branch residence in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And he had texted or called, I can't remember, his son prior to that because he was going to go down and do some mowing. And make a long story short, a neighbor around 11 o'clock waved at him. Okay. Waved at him. And that was the last anybody physically saw Mike when he was going down to do some mowing for a neighbor. So Mike was not found, and his mother actually got worried about him. And he had been dropping off equipment to do the work needed, but he had not been heard from since. His truck was at the end of the driveway with the tractor for mowing for 2 days. It was not in his character to disappear. His driver's license, cell phone, and money clip with cash was lying in his truck. It was unlocked and the windows were down. Something happened to Mike, and his family became worried. So his four-wheeler was found parked beside some brush in front of an abandoned cabin on a private drive off of Happy Valley Loop Road. It was a mile from his Bell Branch Road and about a quarter mile from the property where he grew hay. The search was off the cuff. The cadaver dogs picked up no scent. There were no tracks. Look at this. Here's the ATV that they found. Now, they claim it wasn't wrecked. Rue and I think that in that picture, it looks like it was wrecked. We don't know. His sons feel like foul play was involved. The ignition was still in the ATV. Now, what's funny about this is the dogs picked up no scent, no trail, nothing. There is nothing. This is the most baffling case I think I've ever looked at. Nothing. Zero. So we're going to take a look at his chart. Okay, now I did find a T-square in the chart, which is a malefic aspect in a crime scene chart. This chart, and I'm sorry I didn't use whole sign, and they're a little bit more difficult to read. Mike is a Libra as a rising. So that's the ascendant. So we're going to look for Libra, red arrow, in the 12th house. Remember, the ascendant is in the 1st house. That's the 12th house, right? We're going to look to the moon as the co-ruler. So anything with the red is Mike. If there is a perp, it would be Aries. It's Aries if there's a perp involved. So we want to look for Mars. Mars is in the first house. Now, his children feel adamant that there was foul play. Adamant foul play. Something happened to him. Okay. All I can do is look at the chart and try to interpret it. I've done mapping on it. And this is mountains. This is mountainous territory. This is even more mountainous than where Summer Wells disappeared. This is really rough terrain. So here's what we've got with Mike. We would either have animal, a bear, which is bears are up there. There's a lot of bears. But there were no signs of that. Did he hit his head in an accident and wander off? Could he have done that? Or was there foul play involved? So we've got 3 scenarios. So let's see what the chart tells us when we go back and we re-look at the chart. Okay? Mike is in the 12th house, Venus. If the ruler of the first house is in the 12th house, it's an implication of danger or death. Okay? The moon is up in the 8th house. It's an emotional betrayal, emotional trauma, psychological distress. And we've got Mars on the ascendant. Yeah, I've got the Placidus up. I know, that's what I said. I used whole signs, but they're pointed out. Now, Mars in the first house shows aggression, trauma to the head. It's a hot placement, confrontation. Okay? No other tire tracks, Lisa. There were no footprints. There was absolutely nothing. Nothing. That's what's so, and nothing that would show where an animal may have drugged him. There's nothing. He's, like I said, his case is like one of those where they just disappear out of the federal lands and the federal parks, just disappeared off of the face of the earth. His son said he had no financial issues. He was happy. He was not depressed. He was not in an unalived state. There was absolutely nothing going on. He had a business. He was planning to renovate at his house. Everything appeared fine. Now that's what we're hearing, what we heard. Yeah, it's like Rue said, he basically vanished off the face of the earth. So if we look at the IC, remember we called the IC the end of the matter. We've got Jupiter. Family dynamics. It could also indicate a land property dispute with an inheritance. Okay? So that's the 4th house dynamic going on. Okay? Digging deeper. Now this is weird. The 3rd house. We have Pluto, darker secrets. It could be threatening messages, tracking. His speech was silenced. A sudden attack or, now listen to this, sudden attack or accident close to the home. Sudden attack or accident close to the home. Okay, we know that happened. When we move to the 5th house, deception could be romantic deception. Remember, the 5th house can show partying and drugs and alcohol. but that again was not listed either. 6th house, disruption in a daily living. Again, if there was a perp, it was somebody that was close to him, someone he knew with emotional ties. And then we've got the T-square. The T-square, Pluto is at the apex, which would be the unaliving. Uranus, unexpected. And it's with Venus and Mercury. That could be was he involved with a female? We don't know. Communications or something with a female. And that's all hidden because it's 12th house. Everything in the 12th house nobody knows about. And Rue says, I think the land property thing was interesting. Yeah, Jupiter is in there. Now, the sun in there. Hidden motives. Secret communications. Deleted communications and messages. Look for misdirection. Could be mental illness. Items will be found located near him. Slow resolution, long delays. Remains will be found much later. Concealed areas, abandoned buildings, and rural fields, abandoned fields is where to look. And that was me going through places that no one checks. Look there. Closed off, remote fields, abandoned buildings. Now, if you remember, that ATV was found by an abandoned building. Did they scour and go through that abandoned building and check? I'm sure they did. Surely they did. So, no odd odor. No, there's literally nothing, Keith. Ask Rue. He vanished. There is nothing. There were no buzzards. There were no odors. There were not even any feet tracks. There was nothing. The dogs did not pick up a scent. The dogs didn't even pick up a scent. Something up in a tree. Yeah, it's the ATV. The ATV, look, the ATV is up in the tree. So the ATV is up in the tree. There it is. I don't know. Is that parked? They said it was just parked. It wasn't wrecked. Looks like a weird way to park an ATV, in my opinion. So there's a lot of weird things that are coming out of that chart. Now, this is what I thought about today. We took a time stamp that was given to us by a witness, by a neighbor. We probably, his son said that he called him like at 9:30 that morning, and he was at home. That would probably be a better timestamp to use. I'm thinking, and this is just thinking, I'm using a wrong timestamp. I'm thinking that in 8:30 time, or when the ATV was found at 12:06 p.m., I think August 26th, 3 days later. The ATV was found 3 days later by a neighbor that they went out and did their own search in the neighborhood. The neighbors got together and did a search and found it. So I'm thinking, to be honest with you, that I've got a bad time. And that's what we do as forensic astrologers when you go back and you look and it's not making any sense. Because usually the event chart will hit and it hits good. and it hits and you guys have seen enough charts before to know that these things hit. And when they hit, they don't stop. They tell the whole story. This is telling a very whacked story. It's telling us that, yeah, there might be perps. No, there might be mental illness. So it's not clicking. So this is one of those cases that, yes, it's a cold case, but when you stick with them, it's one that you go back and you do several charts. And that's when you rely on your intuition of doing it for decades and say, when you're mapping it, you know that it's the right chart. That's how it was with Kata. When I did Kata's charting and Kata's chart, and that thing they talk to you. They literally tell you the story. The chart will literally talk to you. And you know that the map is going to be 100%. You know it's going to be accurate. This chart feels off. It feels way off. This whole case feels off. I don't know. Could it be something where he had a wreck and hit his head and wandered off? Why didn't the dogs track that? That makes no sense. Did they just use cadaver dogs? Because there's a difference between the dogs. Did they use tracking dogs? Did they use cadaver dogs? We don't know. 2008, we don't know. Wendigo. What's Wendigo mean, Keith? What's that mean? Up higher. What's Wendigo? Wendigo. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this one? Rue, what are your thoughts on a wrong time on the timestamp? I don't, it just, something just doesn't feel right. So this is what you do with cases. And this is why they take forever. This is why you jump in a rabbit hole and you're in that rabbit hole for weeks, months, if not years, because you go over it and you look at it and there's something's not right about this case. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes depicted as a creature with human-like characteristics who may possess human beings. Well, I would think he would have a scent. The dogs would have picked him up. And if it's some kind of a spirit, even if it possesses a human being, yeah, even if it was for a human being and it possessed him, he still would have left tracks. He would have left somewhere. Yes, I've got my cards. So and Rue and I were talking today, and I said, I am going to pull out and use the cards that I got from the true crime cards. And they're little cards, and I haven't done Whispers of the Unsolved. And they're so little. I have to get big cards because of the fact they're so little and tiny. And I have I have like midget hands. I guess I have the tiniest hands in the world. And they're hard for me to shuffle. So I'm going to shuffle the cards and ask what should I ask? What would be a good question to ask on his case? Let me get here's this. I'll move this over there. What could be a Wendigo? But even if it was something like that happened, there would be a scent. But you know what? This is like them in those federal lands. We're in the federal lands and people just up and disappear. Oh, these cards went everywhere, Rue. I'll have to do them. I can't do them because they're everywhere. These little cards are everywhere. They're terrible. They just fell all over my floor. I'm sorry. I'll do them tomorrow. I'll take them with me. Was foul play involved? You know what? I'm just going to pick a card. We'll do it that way. They're all shuffled, all on my table, and I'm just going to pick a card. Was foul play involved? Look at this. Can you read that? Was foul play involved? Mental health. That's what the chart says, mental health things. But here we go with the family. The family says no. He was fine. Was Mike involved in an accident? Was Mike involved in an accident? Affluent, wealthy, upper class. Affluent, upper class. He did have, I believe he did have money, didn't he, Rue? Did he have some money? Was an accident involved in his disappearance? Was an accident involved in his disappearance? Was an accident, I shouldn't look. Was an accident involved in his disappearance? It says trapped. It's weird. Is there a perp? Was there a perp? Did someone unalive Mike? Danger. Did someone unalive Mike? No. No. Did Mike wander off on his own, under his own on his own 2 feet? Did Mike wander into the woods? Did Mike wander into the woods and get lost? He knew the woods too. Power. Now, this was 2008, but it was still going on. What happened to Mike Herron on August of 2008 in Tennessee? What happened to Mike? Can't confirm. Okay, Rue, ask a question. Lee, money, life insurance. Was this done for money and life insurance? Strategy. Will he be found? Will he ever be found? For healing, recovery, and alignment. That would be for his children. Will Mike be found? It says alive. Alive. This case is getting weirder and weirder, Rue. Will Mike be found? Let's put the cards. Let's put the cards up a little. That's just bizarre, you guys. I need to order the big deck. I need to order the big deck because my hands can't shuffle these tiny ones. I had trouble at first with these. There's so many of them and they went all over the place. We're just going to have to keep using. Okay, so let's look at the chat. It's just really weird, you guys. Linda says, is the timeline we are using correct? We don't know. We don't know, Linda, because a neighbor saw him at 11 and waved to him. And that was the last sighting of him, and it was at 11 o'clock. However, he did contact his son at 8:30 that morning prior to leaving. And I'm thinking we should try the 8:30 time. I think we should try the 8:30 time. And I also think we should try the 12:06 time when the ATV was found, where that was found, and map it from there. So we've actually got 2 additional timestamps, because this has been a cold case since 2008. Venus in there so prevalent. I think I don't know, but I would say a female. Female has to know something. Somebody knows something. Somebody always knows something in these cases. People just don't disappear. Kathy says it's a Native American folklore animal. It has horns like a deer and eats humans, and there's a mild scent like vegetation going bad. There was nothing. I don't think Rue was there when there was. I mean, it was like he completely disappeared. Completely disappeared. So, completely disappeared. So, we're going to keep working on it, aren't we? Aren't we, Rue? We're going to keep on it. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll do the next, I'll do another 2 follow-up charts and show you guys what we come up with. I think if we do the chart that when the ATV was found and the exact location in the woods where the ATV was found, because we do have that, and we can find that on Google Earth in that area, I think we're going to get a good mapping of him. There you go. And there was an abandoned building by the ATV, and the chart clearly says ATV, abandoned building, an abandoned building, and places that they would not know to look. So we'll keep up with it. But those are the cases I thought that you guys would find interesting, is like, how do we know when there is a perp? We don't. And that's why we dig and we don't stop. Yeah, there's thousands of them. Albert Cooper disappeared in 2013, left for work at 3:45 a.m., never arrived, same kind of case. There's thousands of them. Majority of them are in national parks too. Yeah, they just disappear. Do a lot of people just disappear on their own, maybe? And they just say, I'm leaving. We don't know. And they start a life somewhere else. Is that possible? That could be possible too. We just don't know. His children are adamant that there was foul play because he had no reason to leave. And the children would know. The family would know. They would know. So we will stay on it, you guys. We're on it. We're going to stay on it. So you guys, those are our cases for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for your thoughts and sharing. I love it. I couldn't do what I love without you guys, and I appreciate you guys tuning in every Wednesday. I love it. So I'm going to have to order the big set of cards. I'm going to order the big set of cards. These are so little. Look how tiny they are. So, but I watched that movie Left Behind. Yeah, people just disappear. It's crazy. It's just really bizarre. Really, really bizarre, you guys. So listen, have a great Halloween. Thanks so much for tuning in. And next week, we will have another couple of cases. I'll pull up some other cases that we've done in the past and take another look at them. It is interesting, Denise, when you're doing these and you learn forensic astrology, you have to be very, very careful to not always automatically assume that there's a perp, because we just don't know. Sometimes people disappear, and sometimes they disappear on their own. Sometimes accidents do happen. And in true crime, we got to remember that. So we'll have to, and we'll keep an eye on Zacharias' case too, and see what they come up with that one. So you guys have a great week. Again, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Have a super Halloween. Enjoy the trick-or-treaters. Gosh, stay warm. It's cold here. Stay warm and have a great one. Thanks, you guys. Talk to you next week.